Ring. Hello.
Hello?
Hi, is Max there?
Yeah, this is it, Matt. Who's calling?
Yeah, this is Adam. I was calling on the property over there on 123 Main Street.
Oh, okay. What can I do for you?
Yeah. Well, the reason for my call, Max, is as you know, there's a lot of demand in that area, and we're just wondering, did you have any considerations maybe selling that property over there?
Honestly, I have not put any thought into it at all. Um, I would imagine that at some point my wife is going to get sick of the negative degree weather up here in Wisconsin, but she's been talking about it for years, so I don't know when she'd be willing to pull the trigger.
Got it. So out in the cold weather and all that. So your wife is considering maybe getting out the weather. Now, if you ever were going to sell, do you have any idea of where you're going to move to next? Like, are you trying to move out the area or just out
Yeah.
the state?
No, she's got family in Sarasota, Florida. So I think we're going to be heading out that way. And there's really nothing holding us here anymore because I can work completely remotely since COVID. But I mean, putting everything in a truck and moving down there sounds like an absolute nightmare. So I've been kind of tampering that down as much as I can.
Well, that's awesome with the work and after COVID and all. And um, just regarding the move and all that, if that ever were to happen, uh, does your wife have a like kind of like a timeline that she's looking to kind of move over to the
Yeah, 2 years ago. Yeah,
2 years
she
ago?
she was pushing it. We did meet with a realtor, but I mean, I am struggling with the fact that we're at like 2.7% interest rate right now, and I know that's just a gift I'll never get again. So for me, it's if the numbers make sense, I'm willing to move, but otherwise, I'm probably gonna put up as much resistance as possible.
Got it. And it seems like I know you were saying you had a little nerves regarding the move with packing up, and as well you have that 2.7 interest rate. I'm just curious if you were able to somehow, rent your current home where it makes sense, and you're able to find the ideal dream home to make your wife happy. Would that something you would ever be interested in, Max?
I've thought about that a lot, and I talked to a lot of my buddies who are landlords, and they kind of gave me a little bit of a scare of what it would be to be like a long distance landlord. So honestly, we'd probably just want to pull all the equity out of this one because I think we only owe like 200 left on it. So
Uh-huh.
if we were going
Uh-huh.
to make that move, we're probably just going to sell and buy again in Florida.
Uh-huh. So okay, so the scare, and if you don't mind me asking, like, what was the scare about being the long distance landlord? Just so I can have a better understanding of what you were thinking about at all.
Yeah, it's so just if anything were to break down or the tenants move out, I'm trying to find new tenants and show them the property and screen them. I don't want to be flying back, and I'm not really interested in like trying to find a good property manager because I know like they almost all gouge you. So
God, yeah, I was just wondering about that if you were able to find a good property manager, but that even if we put that on the table, you would set that aside, and that's pretty much a hard no. Is that
yeah,
right?
no, I would much rather just take the equity out and because quite honestly, I've been looking at prices down there and like we're leaving Wisconsin. I hope my home's worth like 580 because my neighbor just sold for that. So how about that? What do you think I could get like 580 for my property?
That's a great question. What I can do, and I know when sellers are kind of even considering that, is they kind of want to look for like a picture of value just to get a realistic value of like what they were walking with, net value. Is that something you would be interested in, Max?
Yeah, absolutely. I think at this point, because it's been a few years, I'd like to know what the number is that like the market would show that I could get. But I'm just curious because if we're gonna do this, we're probably gonna interview a few agents. What's your commission?
Yeah. And I completely understand, Max. And I know when sellers are even considering that, what a few things they like to do, I know they like to th- uh, talk about like commission, marketing plan, and value. And when we meet, I can kind of go over all those few things. I'm just looking at my calendar. you know,
Is there any way you could just like email me that stuff over? Because honestly, I don't like this. It just depends on what those numbers are that I'm either going to consider it or kind of like, haha, not even tell my wife.
yeah, no, we definitely can email it and all that. The only thing is, I just want to see how we can kind of provide better value and all that. Let me ask you, what is your best email at all?
Oh, mine's Max at 123 never gonna move gmail.com.
I like that. Never gonna move, huh? That's a good one right there. Well, look, I could send over some comps and all that. And what I can do is I should be around that area, sometime next week, and I can pop by and just introduce myself and see what I can help with. I'll send over some comparables. And if you're going to be available sometime on the evening time, I'm happy to pop by and see, just introduce myself and kind of talk about the marketing plan. And I know you're never going to move, but, you know, happy just to have a meet a face to face. Is that fair?
Yeah, no. I mean, I definitely want the numbers. So, it sounds like something I'm gonna do. Like, how long do you think it'll take?
Yeah, sure. And it's just a quick introduction, quick Popeye. Won't take too long, maybe 15, 20 minutes, and I'll be out your way. And again, it's just a quick intro just to show a little bit of what I can do, and I'll send over all the marketing material before I even get there. Okay.
Yeah, that sounds all right.
Okay. And then I'm looking at my calendar. I think it's a Monday around like 4 or 5. What's better for you?
Probably 5 because I gotta pick up the kid from basketball. So,
Got it. Okay, kid basketball. Okay, sounds good. So and again, if there's any issues or anything, just let me know. I'm happy to just take it off the calendar and we can meet another time. Okay, Max?
yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
All right, bye bye. I don't know, man. How do you feel that went?
Just the ending, I didn't feel like I closed it that strong. However, it was a really hard seller, like 2.7, didn't want to move, got scared, and just like it's the wife, so it's like just trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
It was, there was some motivation, but it's more of a nurture lead than I thought than anything.
Yeah, no, I get that. I'm sorry. I was just trying to create a seller box that made sense for the meetup. I didn't want to shut down a role play session.
No,
But
no,
yeah.
yeah, no, I appreciate that. This is what I would have done on a real call. Like what else could I have done? Like, what do you think I should have done better?
I'm gonna be very forward with you, and I have no ability to be an authority at this point, man. I'm green as I can't swear. Never
Same
mind.
here,
I
man.
am
I'm with you.
um well, how about this? If unless anyone has an objection, I'm gonna run it back his way. Is that cool?
Go for it, I guess.
Nice. Okay. Ring ring.
Hello?
Hey, is this Adam?
Yeah, this is Adam.
Hey, Adam, this is Max Fights of EXP Real Estate. How are you doing today?
Pretty good, pretty good. How are you doing?
Very good, very good. Hey, I obviously don't want to take up too much of your morning here. So, one of your neighbors was fortunate enough to actually receive an offer $40,000 above ask. And I was calling today to see if there was anything in the world I could do for you today regarding buying, selling, or investing in real estate.
You got an offer of 40,000?
We got an offer of $40,000 above our asking price, and that's what we actually settled at. So they sold $40,000 above, and I'm giving the neighborhood a call just to see if there's any value I can bring to any of the neighbors, or if any of the neighbors are considering making a move themselves.
Yeah, well, honestly, we were kind of considering moving out. It's just kind of the cold weather out here, so we're thinking about moving out the area and all.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I completely understand that. As someone who's not a tremendous fan of negative degree weather, I can really, really sympathize with that. That is actually not an uncommon goal. I just curious, just on the fact that you brought up warmer weather, do you have an idea of where you'd be moving to next in an ideal situation?
Well, my wife is really considering just moving out to Sarasota, Florida, just because that we have family and all that. So, yeah,
Oh,
we're
I get that.
mhm.
Is she very excited about that move? Is this something that's been in the works for a while?
she's it's been in the works for about like 2 years, but I've been like just really nervous, man. I have a 2.7 rate, and I just we she wants to go, but I don't really want to go because of the fear of moving and all. So it's just I don't know.
No, I get that. We call it the golden handcuffs kind of thing. It's you can't leave such a tremendous rate until that weather motivates you more than you can feel comfortable spending the money. I'm just curious, what would that move mean to you and your wife if you could make that happen?
Well, it's just she just wants to be closer to family and all that.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And with the holiday season coming up, is there a time frame that would be ideal for you guys? I mean, would it be a fantastic situation if you could be there for Thanksgiving?
Uh, it would make my wife happy. It's just again like that 2.7 rate and all.
I get it. I get it. How about yourself? Do you have any ambitions of actually getting out there, or is this kind of more of a thing that you're kind of holding back and being hesitant?
To be honest, just kind of holding back and being hesitant and all that. Just uh, that's something we want to do, but again, I'm just nervous. I'm moving forward with all that because my neighbor
Absolutely.
scared me about being like a landlord if we're gonna keep it. We don't know if we want to cash out, so it's just yeah.
Yeah, and what an excellent opportunity, honestly. And it depends on everybody's goals. But being a long distance landlord is possible with the right kind of property management and resources back here in the Great White North. But I'm curious, is it a possibility for you to keep that home and sort of act as a landlord and set up your next home when you move out there? Or do you kind of need all the equity out to make it more of an easy transition?
To be honest, we're just looking to cash out. Just the neighbors kind of scared me, and we don't want to do that. So we're just looking to buy a house if we're gonna move and all that. So sell this one and buy another one, and just because I work remote, and my wife just wants to be with family.
No, I get that. And just kind of touching on that be with family, because I know it's different for everyone. My family is a little bit different, but let's say if you were able to sell the home and get yourself and your wife down there in time to make Thanksgiving, would that transition be possible without aligning your next living situation? And I guess what I'm saying is, would you be able to live with family or find a rental while you shop for your next home down there?
Yeah, we could probably do that. We could
Okay.
probably live with family and do that because our next home is probably going to be our forever home. So we don't want to just rush into that next purchase.
No, absolutely, absolutely. When I'm helping people find their forever home, honestly, we see a few homes where it's not just whatever. And I do find when you're moving out of state that to be in the area for a little bit longer and actually explore the communities and the different neighborhoods helps you make that choice. So I am just curious. Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah, yeah. Well, what's the suggestion?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think it might be valuable to you and your wife to maybe just know those numbers and kind of know exactly what that process would look like if you did decide to make that transition to the warmer climate to be closer to family?
Yeah, I would be actually interested in that actually, Max.
Okay, perfect. So in an ideal situation, would at late afternoons or early evenings work best for you and your wife?
Evenings.
Evenings. Okay. So what I'm thinking is we'll just do a quick pop by. I'll drop by and demonstrate exactly what that process would look like, and then bring a seller's net sheet so you guys know exactly what you'll be walking away from the closing table with in order to help you make that game plan for your next purchase. So one of the things I'm thinking is, how about this? What's the best email for you?
123 at main
One,
gmail.com.
two, three at Maine. Perfect. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to shoot you a little bit of information. And you mentioned that like kind of early evenings work best for you. Would tomorrow at like 5 or would 6:30 work better for you and your wife to have that quick sit down?
5 would be better.
5 be okay, cool. I'm gonna pencil you into my calendar right now with a huge eraser. That way, if anything comes up, we can simply reschedule. But I am gonna shoot you the information about myself, about my business, and then tomorrow morning I'll shoot you a text, or my assistant may as well reach out, but you'll know who it is because she'll reference me. And make sure that time still works for you, and then we'll just go through exactly what that process would look like. Does that sound fair?
Sounds fair. Thank you, Max.
Absolutely. And absolutely. And while I have you on the horn real quick, I just got to ask you a few questions so that I really value your time tomorrow. So what I'm going to do right now is just really establish a profile and then I would just jump into the prequel.
Okay.
Good.
And then,
How'd you feel about that, Max?
oh, rough.
Yeah.
Awesome that you're here. Great.
That's fantastic. I'm so excited that you got to listen to that.
Fuck, great. You didn't want to sleep in or anything?
Nah, dude. Nah.
Okay.
Never. So, all right. So let's start off with what you did well. So again, you have good phone voice. Like I would listen to you. You asked a lot of questions, which is also better than what you were doing previously, right? You really were like digging and clearing the room by room, meaning like the first room is motivation, second room is time, third room is decision makers. So that's good. Now, from your perspective, like where did you feel? And I'm curious, whatever you say is fine, right? Where did you feel a little like uncertain?
I'm not sure if you're hearing this, but I it's in like my soul, my fucking soul. My transition from getting to the close from the questions has been a struggle for me in all aspects because I either jump too soon or I'm too late.
Yeah, it's okay. So, and that's something that you'll fine tune. Keep in mind, I want everybody on this call to recognize something. Is that there's always like disappointment before like an anointing, right? So like when you're frustrated and you're trying to figure something out, that means you're in the process of learning. So we need to like reframe the way we think about it, right? So I'll give you a quick example and then we'll walk through like how to do the transition. So my son, he's 3.5 years older than or 3 years older than his sister. And he got one of these when he was like maybe 8. They're these like kind of skateboards, but they're not. You have to like weave back and forth to get them to move. I don't know what they're called. Yeah. Yep. And it's kind of like the same motion with like snowboarding, right? So it's actually more complicated to figure out than just a normal skateboard, right? Well, my son's able to do it. My daughter, she's like me. She's a killer. So she's like, well, if he could do it, I can do it. So she jumps on it and she tries to do it. And what do you think happens initially when she tries? She's only 5. What do you think happens?
She falls a lot.
A lot. And she starts to cry. So I'm outside and she's crying, right? And I'm like, well, what's going on? She's like, well, I can't do this. I said, well, that's not true. You can't walk on water and you can't fly. What's more true is that you're presently learning how to do it. And she was like, okay. And I'm like, well, this is a complicated thing. She's like, well, what do you mean? Well, I'm like, well, you have to like train. What your brain is doing right now is figuring out all of the micro movements, like where to distribute weight in your feet and in your torso and in your like your core, right? It's figuring all of that out simultaneously. And it's actually, it's a little challenging at first. But I promise you, if you stick with it over time, you'll figure it out. So what I want you to recognize is like, this is not something that I understand there's tears, but there's tears of frustration.
It should be imputed.
Come on, bro.
If we believe on him that raised up Jesus, our
Jose, how do we unmute them, bro? Okay, do they mute? I don't know. All right, so whenever you feel frustration, instead of giving it a negative connotation, I want everybody on this call to recognize I'm in the process of learning something. Okay? It's not that something's wrong. It's actually right because you're learning. So that's number one. I just want to be clear on like how to think about it. Now, number 2, in terms of like the transition, when the best kind of framework that I can give you, it's cool because I'm actually in the process of writing a book. Let's go, team. Yeah. And I was actually just talking about this in the book, which is this framework of what I mentioned to you, which is clearing the room, right? Room by room. So the first is motivation, and you're doing a good job of that. You were asking a lot of questions around that. Well, tell me like what's going to make this move. If you did move, like, would you stay locally here? Would you go someplace else? He's like, I go to Sarasota. All right, awesome. And then if you don't mind me asking, what's bringing you out there? So my wife's family. Okay. And I like in terms of what she wants, I have to imagine she's pretty excited about that, right? Yeah, she's pretty excited. All right. And how do you feel about it? And then he started to be like, well, I'm a little baby bag bitch. No, I'm just kidding. He was like, I'm afraid about the rate and I'm afraid about this and that. And you're like, okay, I get it. And I guess I'm curious because you know the saying, like a happy wife, happy life. Like, how do you see this working out? Do you see you guys just staying put, or are you willing to do whatever it takes in order to, you know, make her happy? And if you did move, I'm wondering, how would your life improve in some way? Right? Is there any benefit for you personally? And then, so cool. So we asked questions around motivation. Then you were asking, hey, is it an option for you to not sell the home and still move? Is it an option for you to rent the property and still move? Those are all great questions. Then you asked a couple questions around time. So time frame wise, ideally, right? If you were able to be there by Thanksgiving, like would that work for you, or would that be too like soon, or and in quiet? All right. And then, you know, if I was able to help you sell the home, let's say in like 30 to 45 days, would that create a problem? Would that be okay? Does that seem like, you know, a time frame that you'd feel comfortable with? I'm wondering if your wife had it her own way, how soon would she want to be out there? If she knew that there was a way that you could make that happen in the next 90 days by the end of the year, is that something that she'd be open to? Would you be open to that? Now after you do that, now it's decision makers. Now it was clear that she wants to go. I was not clear that he wants to go. So the only other thing that I would add to that is when you were walking down that path is, you know, I can hear in your voice, based on what you've been kind enough to share with me, that your wife, like she's a 10 out of 10 in terms of making this move happen. Just so I'm clear, and again, this isn't to create urgency because my job's to help you, Max. It's never to talk you into doing anything. When we connect, from your perspective, is this just to gather information? Or if it all makes sense and you feel comfortable and confident, do you think you guys would consider hiring me and put me to work? Do you see what I just did there?
Yeah.
Decision maker.
Yep.
Where are they at? Look, all the people who are like seasoned, I watch Sohail go like this. Mm-hmm. I watch Michael go like this. Mm-hmm. Anybody who's been on a meaningful amount of appointments knows that that's a critical question to ask before you go.
That's a good way to prequal that. Really
right.
Good.
And then if, let's say he was like, well, yeah, I mean, I guess I'd be open to it because we've been talking about it for a while. And truthfully, if we could get that amount more for our property, like, yeah, like I think we can make this work. Okay. So then with all of that being said, may I make a suggestion? I want you to hammer that into your brain. Okay. So again, once I clear the room by room, motivation, time, decision makers, and I'm doing that through questions, right? That's how I'm able to determine if somebody's an 8, 9, or a 10 motivation. That's the only people that we want to hang out with. Okay. Most agents, the vast majority of agents, the reason why the average agent in the United States makes $72,000 a year is because they hang out with 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, and 6s and 7s, whose time frames are 6 months, 9 months, 10 months, 12 months. Your definition of a lead is directly correlated with your level of production. The only way I could do 200 transactions in a year is because I only spend time with 8, 9s, and 10s. That's it. And you could be a screaming 7. Sorry. And don't ever think, anybody on this call, do not ever think, Consuelo, that you can take a 6 and make them a 10. You can't. Never going to happen. Okay. So then it's like, all right, well, based on what you've been kind of, okay, so I think I'm clear on what you guys are looking to accomplish and why. May I make a suggestion? And the time frame you'd like to make it happen in. May I make a suggestion? That's permission to close. Then you got to be quiet. The hard part is like most of us fill the air with words that have nothing to do. Like we get insecure, so like we're not comfortable with silence. But decisions are made in silence, Scott. Think about it. How do you make decisions? In the middle of talking? No, you make decisions when there's quiet. If you've ever spent time with people, like, you know, if you ask them a question and they're actually paying attention, you know what they'll do? They'll go like this. What are they doing? Thinking. Let them think. That's where decisions are made. Okay. So may I make a suggestion? And that I have to be quiet for 15, 30 seconds, and it's going to feel like an eternity. I promise you. And you're going to want to verbally vomit. You're going to want to like fill the air with nonsense that has nothing to do with anything. You have to remain quiet because they have to give you permission to close. It's much easier to close when somebody gives you permission. And the permission is they're going to go like this. Well, go ahead, Max. Or you know what? I'm listening, Scott. Or you can make a suggestion, Sohail, but I don't know if I'm going to do it. Right? Well, based on what you've been kind enough to share with me, I'm hearing a couple things pretty clearly. Number one, news of this sale, $40,000 above, has got you reevaluating making this move. Number two, you guys have been thinking about it for the last couple of years. And based on what you've been kind enough to share with me, if we could get you the same result as we got them, you're thinking like it may be time to make this happen for you and your wife and your family. So what I'd like to do is this, and I really wouldn't mind. I'm in the area all the time anyway. I'd love to pop by, take a look, see what it has to offer. While I'm there, I'll show you two things very clearly. Number one, with all of the buyers that we have pent up for who didn't get the property that we just sold, $40,000 above, what would be the top maximum dollar we can get for you? That equity that you can take with you to Sarasota. Net bottom line. The second thing I can show you is time frame wise, if you're considering making this move, how the fourth quarter would actually be in your best interest to ensure that you net the most versus doing it in the spring when inventory goes up by 20%. I can answer any questions you or your wife may have. And then at least this way, Max, whether you decide to do it sooner or later, if it's me or somebody else, you'll have all the most important information you guys need so you can make the decision that you feel is best in terms of how to proceed. Does that sound fair to you? Make sense?
Yeah.
So framework wise, again, you're doing, good job clearing the room by room. Motivation, time, decision makers. Once I hear those factors and I can determine it's like an 8, 9, or a 10, and maybe I have to ask that one question like, hey, Adam, I can hear based on what you share with me, your wife is a 10 to make this move happen. Just so I'm clear, is your intention in meeting today, like if it actually makes sense and you guys feel comfortable and confident I can get you the same result as a neighbor, do you think you would be actually open to proceeding and making this happen, being you've been thinking about it for the last couple of years? Or is your intention just to gather information? And see what he says. That's going to determine if I go into a closing sequence or not, right? And then once I go into the closing sequence, it begins with, may I make a suggestion? Then shut up. And once they give you permission, then you close. Good? Good. And remember, guys, and again, a key takeaway, frustration's good. Means you're learning something. This is a multidimensional, multifaceted skill that's worth millions of dollars. It is immature to imagine that being on these calls for like fucking 3 months means you're going to be like a rock star millionaire at it. That's not true. It takes time. But it is learnable. And you are in the right place with the right people. People who have actually done it. I was on a call with somebody and they were like, yeah, I have this coach, and it's a very famous coach. A lot of you guys know who it is. He's like, well, I'm like, yeah, you know what the difference between me and him is? He's like, what? I'm like, I've actually sold real estate. I actually sold 2,000 homes in my career. All right, continue.
Can I go?
You may. Hosey, you want to take this one?
I don't think he likes it when I'm on, bro.
He doesn't, bro. I remember last time he got openly butthurt. He was like, bro.
Jose, have you been thinking about it this whole week?
Nah, dude.
Dang.
Wait, I can't apologize. I have to understand. I understand that you feel the way you feel.
No, the only thing is I was trying to actually hook you up because I think that you wanted Aaron last week, so I was like maybe Aaron would take it on this week.
Yeah, I'll give feedback. It's all good.
Kind of hook you up, bro.
All right, thanks, bro. Appreciate it. Okay, expired.
All right.
Ring.
Hello.
Hi, Jose.
Yeah, who's this?
Jose, hey, good morning. This is Bahati. I was calling about the property on 123 Main Street.
Yeah, are you a real estate agent?
How did you know, Jose? Did they already start calling you?
Yeah, you're probably about the 5th person that calls me. Yeah, how can I help you?
Yeah, listen, I understand that you obviously took the property off the market, and the reason I was reaching out was simply just to find out if and when you plan on putting it back on the market so that, you can accomplish the goals and objectives that you initially set out to accomplish in the first place.
Yeah, we're actually going to be doing it. And we are going to be relisting back with the same agent. So I'd probably say look out for in a week. We're just doing a couple minor repairs, and once we get those done, then we're going to be putting it back on the market.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. I mean, I know that you have options, let's say, at your disposal. Gotta be honest with you, it's really rare that somebody sit on the market for 6 months, not sell, and relist with the same agent. I guess I'm curious, from my own knowledge, were you happy with the level of offers that you were receiving on the home?
The offers, man, I didn't receive any offers.
Wait a sec. You mean to tell me that you were on the market, Jose, 6 months with no offers? Well, look, I certainly don't need to tell you that prior to getting caught up in another multi-month contract that could cost you a ton of money, it definitely makes sense to get a second opinion just to make sure that you're making the best choice this time. Do you feel that would be helpful or useful to you?
Sure. What company do you work for?
I work with the Kaminsky Real Estate Group, and I'd love to be able to just share with you I fucked up. To demonstrate and prove to you specifically what it is that, can we start over?
Yeah, sure. What company do you work for?
So I'm with the Kaminsky Real Estate Group, and we work here very locally. So I guess my question would be, I was looking at the property. It's in a great geographic area. It's very well upgraded. What was the initial reason that you were even considering selling in the first place?
I mean, it's kind of personal right now, to be quite honest. So if you want, what you can do is just go ahead and send me your contact information. And then what I'll do is that I'll basically take a look at it, and then I'll decide if, hey, look, I want to interview you guys.
Yeah.
I can give you my email if you want.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, perfect. What's the best email for you?
The best email is blah 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 blah.
I'm still listening.
Perfect. I'll make sure to get all of my information. You know exactly who about get home sold and what our process looks like. I guess I am curious about having the phone because my job is to help you, never to talk you into doing anything. And what timeline are you looking property sold by?
All right, so it was just like you asked me, like how soon was I looking to get this home sold, and my response was, well, look, I'm looking to get my home back on the market within the next week, so probably the sooner the better.
Okay, perfect. So you definitely want to get this done as soon as possible. And I guess I'm curious, when you were on the market with your previous agent, what do you feel the agent should have been doing to make sure that you didn't go through these 6 months and not get it sold?
Well, to be honest, I think it was a combination. One, I don't really think it was his fault. Two, I mean, I think it was mainly interest rates. And now that interest rates are coming down, I'm planning on giving him like a little bit of extra time. I know that he's worked quite hard on this. He tells me that he feels like he's close to getting it sold. So I'm thinking about just giving him a little bit of extra time.
Okay, yeah, and that makes sense. I can see why you would want to do that. I mean, I guess I'm curious, being that it didn't sell, what kind of updates was he giving you on a weekly basis regarding why it wasn't selling in the first place?
Obviously, I mean, I don't think he was giving updates every week, but he was providing me with updates. A lot of it just had to do with like the marketplace is not where the marketplace needs to be, and that we just need to give it a little bit more time. I said with rates coming down, I think it's the market's improving, so I think he'll be able to get it done pretty soon.
Well, yeah, and I think that's interesting because looking at it here, I don't know if you're aware of this. There was actually 2 other properties that sold in the community while your home was on the market. Did you know that?
Yeah, even then, Bahati, I would just close on that. Like, be like, hey, look, like he's telling me that that it's just a matter of time. I would say something like, hey, let me ask you this. Like, what if you knew that you didn't have to wait any longer? And what if you knew, like, regardless of whatever market conditions, that you could actually get the home sold in the next 2 to 3 weeks? Is that something that you'd be open to? So you see how that's like, it's like the opening is right there, basically. And it's like, well, yeah, I would actually be open to it. Okay, great. Can I make a suggestion?
And then close. So the other thing is when somebody's sticking to like the agent, they're really like, trying to like defend them really. The way to diffuse that is not by like your track record or not by like how many, you can maybe drop a doubt bomb and be like, yeah, it's really interesting because we study these numbers all the time. And I don't know if you're aware of this. While your home was on the market, there were like 55 homes within your price point between 500 and 600,000 that sold in our county last month. Did you know that? I'm like, no, I didn't know that. Yeah. So it's really not a question of people are buying and selling. They definitely are. The real question is specifically how come they're not choosing yours? So I'm dropping doubt, but I'm not attaching it to the agent. And then the other way I would say it is like, hey, listen, Bahati, I just want to be clear. This conversation is not about me. It's not about the other agent. It's not about any of the other agents that are calling you. It's really about the Morales family and you guys having it on the market, not selling, and really through no fault of your own, not being clear as to why it didn't sell and what you need to change to ensure that it does. So let me ask you this. What if you knew that simply by augmenting the approach, you could be under contract in the next maybe 2 to 3 weeks? You didn't have to wait. Is that something you would be open to? Do you see what we did there? So like I'm taking it away from the agent, which is like this hurdle because he's defending the agent, and saying like, hey, it's not about the agent. It's not about me. It's not about the other agent. It's not about any of the other agents that are calling you. It's really about you and the Morales family, and that you guys were trying to make this move happen, and you're still here 6 months later, and you didn't get what you wanted. So let me ask it this way. Like if you knew that simply by augmenting 1 or 2 things in terms of the approach, that you could be under contract in the next 2 to 3 weeks, and in fact, you didn't have to wait, is that something you would be open to? And then they might say like, well, what do you mean? And whenever anybody asks you a question or gives you a compliment, what is that permission for?
Close.
Yes. So if they say, well, what do you mean, Bahati? Well, just by you asking me, that demonstrates that we should get together and discuss the options. May I make a suggestion? Which is permission to close, and then go into a closing sequence. But the way that you handled those two was good, because I know in the past you didn't. So you at first, I wasn't paying attention, so I don't know if you smiled when you said it, but like at the beginning where he's like, is this an agent? You're like, yeah, how'd you know? That was good, because that was from a couple calls ago where you didn't do that. And then the second was where he threw something at you and you handled it as well, which was also good. So this is just refinement on how to take the awareness and focus off of the other agent, put it back onto him, which is where it belongs, and then ask that closing question. Because he's already, if you think about this in terms of the rooms, he's going to sell. So the motivation room is clear. He's going to put it back on the market. So the time room is clear. The only other thing to ask is like, well, I can hear in your voice that you definitely want to do this. I can see here Mariella's on title to the property. How does she feel about making the move? Oh yeah, she wants to do it as well. Okay. So really what I'm aware of, Jose, is like, gosh, this is really not about me. It's not about the other agents. It's not about all the phone calls that you've been getting this morning from other agents. It's really about you and your wife and your family and your guys' desire to make this move happen. And after 6 months just not being here, even though other homes were selling while you were on the market. So let me ask you this. Let's say you knew that simply by augmenting the approach, you could be under contract in the next 2 to 3 weeks. I mean, is that something that you would actually be open to? Well, yeah, of course. All right. Well, just by you saying that demonstrate, we should get together and discuss the options, right?
So my question is, how much info do I really need to get before? Like I saw the openings of being able to close for the appointment, but I just felt like maybe it was
Remember, here's the 3 things you need to know: time, motivation, time, decision makers.
Okay.
So think about this like you're going into, like, I learned this from people that are in the military. So when they, like, I have a buddy of mine he retired from the SWAT team. He's actually on my team, the guy Heath that I taught probate, who did 21 probate deals as a part-time agent, full-time cop. When SWAT goes into a space, they clear the room by room. So they clear each room for threats, right? And they don't proceed until that room's clear. So the first room I want to be clear is the motivation room. Is it clear? Second room I want to be clear on is time. Third room I want to be clear on is decision makers. Once I get clear on all 3 of those, it's time to close. So that's what Jose was picking up on. He's like, yo, time, motivation's there. Or motivation's there, time's there, in that order. Motivation first, time second. The only other question I could have asked is, well, I can hear in your voice you seem to be like excited about putting it back on the market. I'm curious, is there anybody else on title to the property, and how do they feel about getting it sold? Oh yeah, like we're on the same page. We're definitely doing it. All right. Now I have all 3 of those clear. Now I know that this is an 8, 9, or a 10, and now I can go into a closing sequence. Make sense?
Yep.
Where most people are taught like after every question they close, and that's like silly. I don't even know motivation. I don't know time, and I don't know decision makers. Like that to me is like dumb. Perfect. Way to go, brother. Way to keep showing up. Way to stay frustrated. That's how you get better.
The other thing I was going to say to you is I felt like kind of where the conversation got derailed was when I asked you, what company do you work for? I'd probably come up with some sort of canned response there because I felt like it was headed in the right direction. And after I asked that, you're like, oh, I work for the Kaminsky. And then you started going off on these different things after that. So this is our response. Like whenever they ask us like, hey, what company do you work for? That's a really good question. I actually own my own company, or I actually own my own company. Sorry. So I actually own my own company. It's called the Morales Real Estate Group. I don't want to obviously brag to you in any way, shape, or form. At the same time, I know experience is important. In the last 12 months, we've had the fortune of being able to sell $92 million worth of real estate. All that means to you is that if you're looking to get your home sold in the next 2 to 3 weeks, we can definitely help you. Let me ask you this. What's a good day for us to get together? That way we can blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, and you can use your team.
Answer it and transition.
Exactly. And you can use, I know Kaminsky as I know him. He's got a great track record. So, you could use the group, you know what I'm saying? So you could be like, I work for the Kaminsky group here in whatever beach. I think it's like Newport Beach.
Manhattan Beach.
We've had the great fortune over the last 30 years of doing, 2,000 transactions and $1 billion worth of real estate. So it's really not a question of whether or not we can or can't help you. We definitely can. What the real question is just me finding out specifically what you're looking to accomplish and why. So that way we can come up with a game plan to help you to get what you want, the time you want. Does that make sense? And they're like, yeah, it's just a similar version of what Jose said. And then you just move on. Like you just move on from it.
Move on. Yeah. Yeah, but I would suggest having some sort of response there. A lot of times, like whenever I ask agents, what company do you work for? I notice that they kind of fumble the ball, and I'm like, hey, look, like you're going to get asked that all the time. And a lot of times you have to and I think I said this on a previous call, when people ask you questions, just know that they're asking you the question for a reason. So when they ask you, what company do you work for? Why do you think that they're asking you that?
Because they're interested.
But what, like, could they have a preconceived misconception about certain companies, and that if you work for a certain company, then you're a 100%. Good agent, and if you don't work for a certain company, then you're a bad agent? Could there be something like that in their brain?
For sure. Yeah, 100%. And that's why when I initially call, I don't say like I'm Aaron with whatever. I'm like, hey, my name is Aaron. I'm a local real estate agent here in blank. Very specifically for that reason, because I had experiences where I would be like, yo, I'm an agent. Hold on.
Well, here's what I would say too. I would say that a lot of times when agents answer this question, they don't really understand the meaning behind it as to why they're asking it. So they answer it very nonchalant, like it doesn't really matter. Like,
and they don't realize that it's something that they're actually judging them on. Bro, look at
they're actually judging you.
Look at this. It's crazy, bro. So what's happening is they're judging you based on your response. So you want to keep it like vague purposefully. Like, I'm a local real estate agent here in blank. And if somebody presses you, that's when you have that response.
Basically.
Yeah. I work for the Kaminsky group here in wherever. And we've had the great fortune over the last 30 years of doing 2,000 transactions, over $1 billion+ worth of real estate. So it's really not a question of whether or not we can or can't help you. What the real question is just me, because we definitely can. The real question is just figuring out what you're looking to accomplish and why, and then coming up with a game plan so we can ensure that you get what you want in the time that you want. Does that make sense to you? So now I'm pushing it back onto them and pushing it back onto the results, because the truth is it doesn't really matter, right?
Yeah, and that's what I would say. That they are judging you based on your response on whatever it is that your response is, and that different people have different misconceptions about different companies. Some people and let me break this down for you guys. Like, okay, so some people in our area think that if you work for a company like, I'm just going to throw out a name like Remax, that you're going to be able to get their home sold because you work for a company like Remax. But here's my question. Are there good agents at Remax? And are there bad agents at Remax?
Yep.
So is that true that automatically because you work at a certain company, that means that you're going to be able to get their home sold? No, that's not true. what's true is that you're not really hiring the actual company, you're hiring the individual, but obviously they are going to be basing their response on that. But just so you know, like some people are going to be like, oh, like they have an idea, like they may say, I'm going to relist a new company. And in their head, they're thinking, hey, I want to relist with XYZ company because I see their signs all over the community. And if that's the case, then if you don't answer that question at this fall, because they have which they want to work with. So it's a very important question, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and it makes sense to have a response. And I want everybody to understand, too, that brands don't have status. Humans do. Brands have to associate with humans that have status so they can have status. Yes?
I think, too, and I think that this will help people, is whenever there's objections, and this is kind of one thing like that Aaron helped me with, you can basically say like, okay, yes, sorry, my kid's in the background, but okay. So whenever they ask you a question, it's not only learning what to say, but understanding why they're asking you that question. So I think that if you guys understand why they're asking you a certain question, it'll help you think about the objection differently, and it'll help you further understand the client and their needs,
because what's underneath the question of what company
be able to
sorry, so what's underneath the question of what company do you work for is just, can you sell my house? That's it. That's what's underneath the question. So that's why in the response we give a quick of who we work for, and then I'm like, yeah, so, and then I use neuro-linguistic programming, right? Which is like, these are not the drones that you're looking for. So you're focused on this thing, and I'm like, nope, don't focus on this thing, focus on this thing. So I'm like, yeah, it's really not a question of whether or not we can or can't help you sell the home. We definitely can. What the real question is, notice, that's not the question, this is the question, right? So what the real question is just me figuring out specifically what you're looking to accomplish and why, and then us together as a team coming up with a game plan to help you to get what you want at the time you want. Does that make sense to you? I've shifted your focus. Yes? Where focus goes, energy flows. I have the capacity, Bahati, with my language. Okay? Only spiritual beings have language, guys. To control your mind. So I just need to know what's underneath. Where's your office? What are they saying? Can you sell my house? Who do you work for? What are they asking? Can you sell my house? What do you do to market my house? What are they asking? Can you sell my house? Yes? They're all variations of the same shit. But like Jose's saying, if I understand what the real question is, most of you guys get caught up on something that's not the real question. Right? You'll go into this like whole tirade and give them like your fucking resume of like the company you work for. That's not what they're asking you. They're saying, Jason, can you sell my house? That's what they're really saying. Right? They're saying, Chris, can you sell my house? That's what they're saying. Right? What are you going to do to market my house? What are they asking you? Can you sell my house? Notice, those are 4 different things I just gave you, and they all go back to the same thing. Yes? Where's your office? What company you work for? What are you going to do to market my house? They're all variations of the same shit. Can you sell this house? Now, when I know that, now I only need a few responses. So in other words, like I can use the same one. When somebody says, what do you do to market my house? It's a great question. And I know behind it is you just wanted to make sure that we're going to do everything possible to actually get it sold, correct? Yeah, well, here's the great news, Body, is that the plan that we've used is the same plan that the Kaminsky Group has used over the last 30 years to sell 2,000 properties. So it's really not a question of whether or not it works. It definitely does. What the real question is just specifically coming up with a game plan so we can help you to get what you want the time you want. Does that make sense to you? Notice, it's the same. Yes? And there's only a few. Like, if we took 5 objections, they all pull down into, like, can you sell my house? Then, if we took 5 more, you know what it's going to be? How much am I going to get? What do you think it's worth? What are they asking you? How much am I going to get? What's your commission? What are they asking you, Bahati?
How much am I going to get?
How much am I going to get? Yes?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Ta-da! So as such, I only need a specific, like if I know what Jose's saying, if I know what's the real question behind these 5 or 6 different variations, the way that it presents itself, but if I understand what's underneath, then I only need 1 or 2 ways to handle it, and they're interchangeable.
What else, guys? What else can we help out with?
Probate.
Yeah,
Yes.
I don't know if we have time to run through it. Tell me if you have like what are you getting caught up on?
I'm getting caught up on. Basically, I'm calling people before they have their personal representatives. So I'm just kind of like, they're just not ready. Like,
That's
we're
okay.
not ready.
So you have to create urgency, and you also have to have a process of what I call like kind of a pre-listing process, right? So let's say somebody says like, I'm not appointed yet. That's perfectly fine. My job's to help you. It's never to ever talk you into doing anything. What I find that in preparation for deciding what to do with the property, and either way is fine, whether to sell it or not to, that oftentimes families, it can really be beneficial or helpful to them to get a clear, realistic picture of equity, right? I know, these sites give you, kind of an estimate. At the same time, they can be plus or minus like 10%. So families really appreciate getting a tight, realistic range, and net bottom line what the proceeds would be if, and I'm aware that this is an if they did decide to sell. Do you think that would be helpful or useful to you guys in some way?
I'm not really sure right now. I think it's still kind of too soon.
That's okay.
I looked at Zillow. I could, just kind of gives us a number. So I think that for now it might be too soon.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I really do, Mario. And I don't know if you're aware of this. My intention in sharing this with you is just to really equip you with information you need so you can make the decision that you feel is best. Is Zillow, their Zestimate, right? If you look at the definition of their Zestimate, in our geographic area, it can be plus or minus 7 to 10%. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so if it's saying like, I don't know, $1 million, it could be worth 900,000 or it could be worth $1.1 million. That's a pretty big spread, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I'm imagining, again, the tighter you can get for that, the clearer you guys can be and make the best decisions. Now, I oftentimes find as well, and I don't know if this is something that you guys have addressed already or if it's even necessary, that whether families decide to sell or they don't, that sometimes they could use some extra help or assistance in preparing a property, either to put on the market or to keep, right? Such as maybe like an estate sale for items on the inside that may have value, helping to get contents cleared out or donated to local charities, or shipped back to family members, or even some light handyman work, again, to prepare to keep or to put on the market. Do you think at some point any of that could be of help or assistance too? No,
it's not really of assistance because, my sister's basically cleared out the whole house already. And, it's pretty, they've been doing updates to it. So I think right now we're good. We're good with that.
Awesome. And then just so I know, right, because it sounds like there's some other parties that are involved. If you had it your own way, do you have a preference? Like, would you prefer to like hold on to it, or would you prefer just to get on the market and get it sold?
Me, I would want to sell it.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, but my brother, my sister, my other brother, it's a lot of us making this decision.
Yeah, my experience is helping so many families like this is that when there's more than 2 people in a room, it's a crowd and everybody has, their own kind of opinions. I guess I'm wondering, is it an option for you guys to maybe just hold on to it and like rent it out, or is that not a consideration?
I don't think so. I mean, my brother, he wants to kind of like live in it, but again, like since it's 4 of us, I don't know if he can, afford the house and, get a new loan for it. So I don't think so, but we still kind of gotta, give him an opportunity maybe to see that himself.
Yeah, I appreciate that in an attempt to try to kind of preserve familial harmony. Now, because we help so many families in these dynamics, it's not uncommon that one of the family members either have lived there and maybe took care of the parents and then they still want to live there, or perhaps they have a desire to keep the home. Now, what I'm aware of as a desire is much different than having the financial means to actually do it. So my intention in asking, again, my question is not to be nosy, just to see if I could give you any more information that could be helpful or useful. Do you believe that your brother actually has the capacity to buy you guys out and then to maintain the property financially?
I'm not sure. Like not too sure. I don't think so. Okay. I can't say for certain,
Yeah, and I'm also aware that, perhaps having those conversations can be difficult. And I know sometimes the value that I can bring to situations is just to serve as a catalyst for those conversations. Now, I'm curious if you could get clarity around that. Do you think that would be helpful or useful? Because I know every month that goes by, it is costing money with maintenance, taxes, and insurance.
I mean, I think so, but since I'm not even the representative yet, like our court date's at the end of October right now.
Sure.
Like it's just a little bit, I feel like the conversation's premature. Like I don't want to really go there with my brother yet because he might, we might get into an argument and whatever. So I'm just kind of leaving
I
it
get that.
alone.
I see. And then do you perceive that anybody's going to challenge you being personal representative in the court?
No, everyone's cool with that. I think it's just like between my brother, him wanting to kind of keep the house. I think he's just kind of like the last one on board. One of my sisters she's kind of 50-50, and then me and my other brother are like totally want to sell it.
I see. And does your sister, does she have the financial capacity to maybe buy you guys out?
No, I think she's just kind of wanting to give my brother a chance or something like that.
And then do you think your other 3 siblings would be okay with your brother staying there and then paying financially to like help him to stay there, or no?
No way. They all want their money. Yeah.
Yeah, that was clear, man. Like, no way. We're not doing that. Okay.
For sure.
So yeah, and being that nobody's challenging you being personal representative, it's really not a question of if, it's just when, right?
For sure.
Okay. So with that being the case, my professional experience has been helping so many families with these dynamics. I understand that it's, the emotional component. At the same time, let's say if you decided to wait to have this conversation, like 2 or 3 months, and then you have it, and then maybe it drags out another 2 or 3 months, and then maybe you guys make a decision and you end up carrying this property for a year. How much do you think it would cost your family to do that?
Yeah, it wouldn't be good. It would cost us. Yeah, it'd be a lot of headache more than anything.
Yeah, and really what I'm aware of is it's your guys' money that you'd be spending, yes?
For sure.
Yeah, so, I know being in a leadership position is very difficult, and I've learned that, if I want everybody to love me, I just need to sell ice cream. That being in a leadership position sometimes means making decisions that are a little bit uncomfortable, and it really seems like, based on what you've been kind enough to share with me, the more information you can gather as the person that is going to be the personal representative, not if, just when, the better equipped you'll be to lead your family through this process. Would you agree?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So with all that being said, may I make a suggestion?
Yes.
Then I close.
Okay.
So what'd you notice?
I guess what I'm noticing is that, like, at the end of the day, you're creating some urgency, but at the end of the day, whether you're going to make a decision, whether it's now or whether it's later on, I'm just going to try to show you that whatever you decide, if you do decide to wait later, it's going to cost you more money in the end, or it's going to be more of a headache.
There's a consequence to waiting, because what people do is they just make a knee-jerk reaction, and they don't think. Most people, I want everybody on this call to realize, most people only think first-level consequences. They don't think second, third, fourth-level consequences. So what I'm doing is I'm helping you to see those next level consequences. And then when I ask you, I'm like, well, what happens if it takes like a year? And you're like, oh man, it'd be terrible. I'm like, yeah. And I could have asked you like approximately how much you think it would cost. And you're like, oh my God, it probably costs like 50 grand because there's still a mortgage on the property. So then I have to imagine if there was a way to limit the expense that you guys would have as a family, that's something you would definitely be interested as the PR, right?
Right.
Yeah. And I'm aware you were chosen to be PR for a reason. So with all that being said, may I make a suggestion?
Right. Makes sense.
And notice how I went down the thing. Does the brother have the capacity to buy? Does the sister have the capacity to buy? Right.
Yeah. And I gave you really vague answers.
Yeah. And when you said to me, like, we're not sure what we're going to do, I asked you, what would you like to do? And then everything came out.
Right. Okay. So that's, and I know you point that out in your course. So basically that's the order of operations. Like you ask him, kind of go down the siblings, get a full picture of it, and then you determine.
Yeah, and notice I'm doing the same thing that I was telling Bahati is I'm clearing the room by room.
Right. Yeah, I could see that. The
same process.
You're just doing it differently this time.
I'm just doing it differently because the lead source is a little different, but it's the same process underneath.
Well, so what if they say what if one of them says that they can really rent it? I'm assuming you'd go down that rent route, right? Like how
I would. I'd be like, well, let me ask you a question. Like, being that you guys would rent it, who do you think would be responsible for managing the property?
I see. Yeah,
have you ever been a long distance landlord before?
Gotcha.
Is that something that you're genuinely interested in? If you had it your own way, which would you prefer? Would you prefer being a long distance landlord and having all of your siblings with their hand out asking you for the rent, even though they're not doing anything? Do you think that could cause familiar friction and disharmony?
Yeah.
And the financial question is a solid one because most people have a knee-jerk reaction. It's emotional, like I'm going to keep it, but they don't have the capacity to. I'd say more often than not, they don't.
Yeah, for sure. Most of them can't. They don't even know what that entails.
No. And then you can perhaps educate them. I was like, yeah, so I don't know if you're aware of this. This was a homesteaded property for your family member. So what's going to happen? Because they're like, oh, it's only costing me like fucking $300 a month. I'm like, well, I appreciate that. And I know it could seem that way. At the same time, this was a homesteaded property for your family member. Did you know that? Yeah, I did. Well, now it's no longer a homesteaded property. So do you know what that means? What's that? Well, it's going to get reassessed at its current value. Do you know what's going to happen to the taxes when that happens? I can see here they were paying $4,000 a year in taxes. They'll probably go up to $15,000. Did you know that?
For sure.
And they're like, no. And now it's a secondary home. It's not a primary home. Do you know what happens in California to a secondary home with insurance?
Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, it's all good points. Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Hey. Of course they are. All right, team. Let's go be great. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Aaron. Peace out.